just to be ready to execute. Because again, I mean, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and again miss it than to, I mean, opportunity be there and then you're not prepared.
The Afropreneur Podcast, a podcast for African entrepreneurs, presents inspiring, innovative, and disruptive entrepreneurs from Africa as they share their lessons, insights, and learnings from their unique entrepreneurial ventures. I'll be your host. My name is Ogweno Stephen. Let's roll.
Okay, good. So, welcome to yet another exciting webinar. And last time we were talking about the resolution hacker. And today we want to go a notch higher and talk about something exciting, talk about the law of diminishing intent. And I'm pretty sure this is something that you've heard about and you've come across, but we want to engage in an extended conversation to unpack and demystify this law, which has taken a toll on many people, and as already mentioned, has really taken a toll on many potential, even unicorns, potential ideas. I've never been executed because of this law, the law of diminishing intent. So before we begin proper, I think it is fair for us to again introduce ourselves. I think it's proper for us to do that so that those who are joining us for the first time are able to really put a name to the face and be able to actually know who is Oduor or who is Stephen. For me, I would say I'm Oduor Kevin. I'm a co-founder at Legacy Leadership Africa. Legacy Leadership Africa is an organization whose single most focus is to raise a generation of premium leaders who are inspired and motivated to leave a lasting legacy in their field of endeavors, in their communities, the families, nation, and even on the continent. And we do this by these engagements, trainings, and engagement with young people, because we believe through leadership, Africa can leapfrog over advanced nation, proper leadership. And I think that's what we as Legacy Leadership Africa, we are very interested in. So I'm going to rope in Stephen to give us a bit introduction, then we just dive into it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. My name is Ogweno Stephen. I'm an optimist, an entrepreneur, and a visionary. I'm a co-founder at Legacy Leadership Africa as well. So very interested and also very excited towards the ideas, principles, and really action driving towards generating impactful leadership in Africa and empowering leaders in Africa, especially young leaders with skills that they need to move the needle forward in making the continent great and ultimately the world. So very excited to be joining here again, and let's pick it up from there.
Yeah, thank you, Steve, for that introduction. I think we'll just set the ball rolling by diving into this conversation and asking ourselves, actually, what does it mean when Jim Rohn coined this word, the law of diminishing intent? I mean, it seems like it's something, technical, but I just want to bring you in to help us unpack this law and demystify this law. What does it actually mean? What does the law of diminishing intent actually mean?
Yeah, so the law of diminishing intent has interesting origins for sure, and is famously coined by Jim Rohn, who's an American author, entrepreneur, visionary, who is really renowned for being some of the pioneers in the motivational field, but also in the entrepreneurship field in the US. And the law is very simple. So, in layman's language, in very simple words, the law of diminishing intent is a principle that explains that the longer you wait to take action, the less likely you are to do it. In simpler terms, the longer you put off doing something, the less motivated you are to actually doing it. So that is the simplest explanation I could provide to this law, the law of diminishing intent, which in turn really is, if you have something to do and you don't do it now, and you say you'll do it later, when later comes, you'll be less motivated to do it. And that is the law in itself.
That is actually very interesting. When I was thinking about the law of diminishing intent, actually, if you look at a lot of commentaries, or I mean, people have also commented on this law. For example, this law has been written about in the invaluable 15 invaluable laws of growth, and it gives a graph of, I mean, when an idea first strike you, I mean, this is the moment of clarity. Actually, this is the moment of inspiration. And when an idea strike you, I mean, the longer you're waiting. So actually, this is something that you can plot on a graph. Plot intention this side on the x-axis, plot time on the y-axis, and actually, what you're gonna realize is that uh, I mean, the longer you wait, or what you're going to realize is the fact that this thing is inversely proportional, by the way, that as intention diminish, then as time also, I mean, run, the intention now start to diminish. And that's why we have a kind of, I mean, intention being on the x-axis and also having time on the y-axis. So it's something that is inversely proportional. And I mean, I agree with you when you mentioned that. I mean, when you first experience that moment of clarity, and you say you're going to do it tomorrow, actually, chances are that you're not going to do it at all. Because there's also a law we're going to talk about is, I mean, that describes how you lose passion as you, I mean, as time goes by. It's called the law of marginal utility, which is something that actually we're going to talk about. But I want to move this discussion beyond, I mean, explanation, or beyond definition, or describing what it actually means, to asking, I mean, what is the psychology behind the reason why people actually succumb to the law of diminishing intent? What happens that, I mean, why do people succumb to this law?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, back to this law, we find that this is a very interesting law in itself. That and very simple, straightforward. That the longer you put off doing something, the less motivated you're actually going to do it. So, what is the psychology behind this? I think that's the question, and that is something that I'll be now explaining shortly. What is the psychology behind the law of diminishing intent? And the psychology behind this law, I think it's pretty straightforward, really. And this is how it goes: that when you first think of an idea and when you first have a task that you're supposed to do, the brain automatically produces the feel good hormones, the hormones that are, exciting you, motivating
Mhm.
you, the hormones that, the endorphins, they call them, but, you just call them feel good hormones. And so those hormones, when the body has produced them, the body expects a reaction, and the body
Mhm.
expects that you will take up the activity that triggered those hormones to be released. Now,
Mhm.
when you don't take advantage of that release of hormone, when you don't take advantage of that physiological phenomena that has occurred in the body, then the next time, the brain registers that this was a false alert and that this activity might have, not been as important as it was. So the brain just got excited for nothing. And so the next time you want to do it, the brain finds it harder to produce these endorphins and these feel good hormones that will get you to do it. And so you feel like you're very sluggish, you're less inspired to do it. And especially if you don't have external stimuli when you come to do it, the next time, you are less likely to do it because now the feel good hormones that were associated with this task and what would have made you to do this task has not come to light. And the brain has not recognized that as an activity that demands these feel good hormones to be produced. And so that is why essentially when you procrastinate, especially when you have the idea, when you have the energy, the vibrance, and then you say you do it tomorrow, or you do it some other time, the brain doesn't react to this in the same way that it did the first time the idea struck. And sort of to deviate a bit, this is also how you get yourself to be self-motivated without having to do without having to have external motivation or the likes. Because ideally, if your brain triggers these hormones to be released because you had an idea, a task, or an activity that you set to do, and then you actually followed up and did the activity. Once the activity is done, the brain produces even more of these hormones to give you enough energy to move into the next activity. But when you don't take advantage of these physiological activities that are happening in your body, then you get to lose out on the energy, the excitement, the drive that would have made you to accomplish this thing. As a result, the next time you want to do it, you are less motivated and less driven to do it. And that is more the physiological and perhaps also the psychological concept around why this law works and how it works.
I think that's a beautiful and in-depth explanation of the psychology behind, this law and why people actually end up not, leaving a scene of clarity or that scene of clarity without taking action. And I just wanted to again ask, on top of what you mentioned, why are people not actually doing it? The psychology behind it you have explained, but now the question is around why are not many people not actually, or why do people leave a moment or a scene of clarity without even taking any action? What is your take on that?
Yeah, the reason why people would primarily not engage or leave these activities is primarily because either you have a different focus, or you are misdirected, or something else came and took up the attention. Because as we know, we live in a world where we are constantly distracted by our phones, our friends, activities, engagements. And so it's a matter of where is your focus and where your clarity is. Sometimes it's also just a matter of environment, because sometimes you are in a scenario where you feel like you want to do something, but you can't do it. And you can't take advantage of the resources that are available to you to do it. And this even happens during the night for most people. It's encouraged that when you sleep with your notebook at the side of your bed, but most people, that is something that they don't consider anyway. So when you have the idea during the night, and an idea comes to you, you should do this, you should do that, and you are sleeping. So once the idea has struck your mind, you can't spare 10 seconds to wake up and write it on the book. Then naturally that goes away, and when you wake up in the morning, you just have a flimsy vision of, oh, I had this idea in mind, but I did not do it because this came up. But also, so situation and circumstance could be one thing. The other thing could just be, is, as I said earlier on, is just the distraction, that you are highly distracted and you can't find time to focus your energies in one activity once the drive and the motivation comes to it. And the other thing that comes to that is the lack of an accountability component. So, for example, if you had this great idea to do and you actually wrote it down, and the time that came to do it came, you are more compelled to do it because you are accountable to yourself, you're accountable to the notes you put down, you're accountable to something. However, if you don't have any accountability and this thing just comes to you as an idea and you let it go, then that is how you do not get motivated to do the activity. I mean, there's another law I talk about in my book called the law of use, which I think relates very closely to this law. And that law is simple: is that whatever you don't use, you lose.
You lose.
So the motivation that comes to you that you don't use, you lose. The ideas that come to you that you don't use, you lose. And that is the same with the law of diminishing intent, that the things that come to you that you do not use, you lose. And this could be distractions, could be environment, could be excuses, could be circumstances that present themselves. And so there is a variety of reasons why, and you could call them excuses really, why you cannot be able to do these activities. But at the end of the day, the law is straightforward, and it doesn't matter what your circumstances are. The law is that the energy, the motivation, the excitement that you do not use, ultimately you lose it.
That's a beautiful explanation to as to why. I want to just to add a little on the same question. I
Mm-hmm.
think also sometimes an idea strike you, but you find yourself not having the what I would call the wherewithal or the capability or the capacity to actually launch into that idea. And sometimes this idea might not really be aligned to your skills. I mean, it's a beautiful idea, but it's not really aligned to, or you don't have the skills to actually execute this. You're not prepared for this opportunity, but it's a brilliant, brilliant idea. And I think we must all do what is humanly possible for us to be prepared for opportunities that strike us, for those eureka moments when we find ourselves, I mean, an idea, a sudden moment of discovery, or a certain moment of revelation, for us to
Mm-hmm.
be just to be ready to execute. Because again, I mean, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and again miss it than to, I mean, opportunity be there and then you're not prepared. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is something that people should actually be aware. I mean, take note of, and I think also this perfectionist mentality. And I mean, you can sing like Whitney, but at least, I mean, you can sing. It's not a must like you sing like, I mean, as I mentioned, Whitney, but at least sing. So what I'm trying to say here is, I mean, having that perfectionist, or you want to be perfect. I mean, nothing is perfect, and if you an idea strike you, and for you want to I mean, execute something in a more elaborate manner, and I think we learn and iterate through the process, and that's how we again make it better and better. And because we can't get I mean the best version on a first iteration. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that is again something that makes people not to actually launch on the idea, or at least I mean, just act on their ideas. And I think it's also something about people doubting themselves. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, life can be frustrating. Oftentimes we find ourselves, I mean, we know the problem, we even know what to do, but we fear that taking action is even too risky, or that we don't have the experience. Then we doubt ourselves, and this brings me to something I mean we call the imposter syndrome. I mean, this psychological occurrence which an individual start to doubt their skills, or they start even to doubt their talents, and that will make you not to launch into that beautiful idea. And you know, the funny thing is that beautiful idea you're having, somebody is also having it somewhere, and so
Mm-hmm.
it will depend on at which speed you're going to act on it, because we have billions of people, I mean, on this planet, and the same idea that is struck you might have also struck someone somewhere. So if you don't act on it, you'll find yourself somebody actually doing it. But then these things can also happen innocently, like you hope to work on it the next day. But you know, the body is also wired in a very funny way, that the body will try to resist something that is difficult. And so it's natural that when you leave a scene of clarity and retreat without even taking action on it, then you'll find yourself, I mean, naturally, you will lose the enthusiasm, the urge you had at the first, moment of inspiration. You actually lose it. And sometimes it happens very innocently without you knowing. And without you even knowing that actually you are losing the intention you had, and the intention you had is also diminishing. But the last thing I also want to mention is around analysis paralysis. I think this is something that a lot of people also succumb to, where you want to, dwell on an idea, research on it. You have too much information that actually you don't know what to do. And when you spend too much time analyzing a problem, or succumbing to this analysis paralysis, you lose your first move advantage, and you take too long to act, and you spend too much time analyzing the problem, and then you become even confused. You make the idea so complex that you even drop the idea altogether. So I think analysis paralysis is also something that makes people not to actually act on their ideas or make decisions due to
Mm-hmm.
thinking of the problem. And people not willing to act because they think they should first gather, every whatever, gather insights from, from who and who, gather insights from even experts, or gather expert opinion. Before you realize it, you are gone. And it's also about indecision. Indecision. I mean, people sometimes, there are people who are naturally born to be, or man, they are indecisive. They don't make decision at the first. When a moment of clarity actually struck them. So I think I just wanted to add that on top of what you beautifully explained around why people do not really act on their ideas. And I think that was a wonderful session talk
Yeah, I
about.
mean, one of the things there, especially, so two things from information that I sort of expand on before we move into the next component is how the brain is wired, as you say correctly, is the brain is wired to take the easy stuff, the immediate stuff, and if anything comes that needs action much quicker, the brain,
Will
the
wait.
brain does not encourage that. That is why snoozing the alarm clock is a very exciting thing because
Mhm.
it's easy to snooze and go back to sleep. And that is
Mhm.
also a very practical application of the law of diminishing intent. If you slept in the night, or if you wake up in the morning and you really had the goal to work out
Mhm.
by this particular time, and then you continue to just lie on the bed and the alarm clock went, and then you snoozed it. So the brain, first of all, is more likely to hit the snooze button than to wake up. So that is, the brain is working to your disadvantage, especially if you have like goals like that, because the brain wants to reward itself immediately. The dopamine that is released in the brain is geared
Mhm.
towards immediate gratification. And so,
Mhm.
as opposed to going and getting gratification from working out or like going to the gym and etc., you snooze that pattern. And so, once you understand how your brain works, that doing things that are long term and things that will require you to put in a little bit more of the work makes it harder, then you can begin to see how to work against or in collaboration with your brain's physiology, so that you know that this is going to be a little bit hard and I'm going to be rewarded a little bit later on, but let's go and do it, because that is
Mhm.
how the brain works. The brain is not designed to do hard things. So every time you do hard things,
Absolutely.
essentially the brain rewards you at the end with a huge
Mhm.
release of dopamine and endorphins, and you feel much better when you eat your biggest frog. But before you eat the frog, before you take the action to start doing that activity, The brain is just designed to help you hit that snooze button before taking the big thing. And then the other thing that you also talked about was this perfectionism complex and having just over being over informed, with the kind of content,
Or you have
information.
too much information.
Mhm. Yeah,
Mm.
too much information. You want to analyze everything, you want everything to be perfect. I mean, one of the simplest philosophies that you could adopt is we will fix it when we get there. Mhm.
If it's
We
not
roll
broken,
the
don't fix it right now.
Yeah, don't fix it right now. When it gets broken up front, we will fix it there. But at the moment, we move. Mhm. So I think I'll sort of end it at that and sort of move into the next question, which I could probably get to
Mhm.
ask you that. And so one of the next questions that I'd had for you is looking at this law. How can you take advantage of this law? I mean, we know the law is very disadvantageous, but how can you actually
That,
make it
that,
work?
that's a
Uh,
beautiful question.
mhm,
Uh, I was, something just struck me when I was thinking about this law, and I was like, could you actually use this law to your advantage? While we
mhm,
know very well when you're plotting intention plus style, and time, uh, you find that as time goes by, the intention diminish. So the thing that actually we lose here is that intention. But the intention is comes with the urge, the feeling that I need to do it right now. But actually, if you think about again this law deeply, you can use it to your advantage. Sometimes when we experience a moment of clarity, we might end up making rash decisions, and you actually might find that if you use this law, in the opposite way, like to delay making decisions or delay, launching into that idea, especially if it's not a good thing you're going to do or it's some rash decisions you're going to make, then this law can actually work to your advantage and give you more time to think through it carefully, painstakingly, to avoid situation where the decisions you're going to make are decisions that are going to be rash. And there's something that I read in the book. I'll just go back to Peter Thiel, Zero to One. I- Peter Thiel talks about the last mover advantage. And this last mover advantage actually applies to maybe entrepreneurs and those who are interested about entrepreneurship. If an idea strike you and you actually don't have the capacity to execute, you might actually want to wait until someone does it, and yours will just to be to improve on it. Because sometimes an idea, a beautiful idea strike you, and you lack that capability to execute on it. And you know very well there are people who have that ability, or it's the financial capability or financial
mhm.
ability to execute on that idea. So Peter Thiel, talks about this last move advantage, especially in the efficiency innovation space, where people will just come to improve on what had already been built because it's already built on proprietary technology, and we can actually copy that technology and be able to improve on it. And that gives you the last move advantage, where you didn't have to spend a fortune to execute this idea. You waited until somebody executed it, and yours was just to improve on it. But again,
I mean, just on that point, before you sort of get into the other point, I was like, in many ways, that is probably what Apple is, especially when you look at the features of the devices, when you look at the new technologies that they're bringing. Apple is the kind
Mhm.
of people who wait for the Android club to develop, the features, to test them out, and then they just come and perfect it. Yeah? So
Mhm.
yeah, when you mentioned that last mover advantage, I was
Last
like, that is, that is a big part of Apple's strategy for sure. And then they rebrand whatever has already been implemented as something
Mhm.
huge, something
Mhm.
new. They execute it perfectly, and they still
Mhm.
have their users, who are diehard fans of their devices because of what their
Mhm.
devices does. So again, just bumping up that last mover advantage with some sort of real life examples per se. Yeah,
Yeah,
then
yeah. It's about waiting for people to do the legwork. But there's a lot of work. That's why I'm bringing in the efficiency innovation space, because this is actually where people. I mean, the initial capital you might need to execute on that idea, you might not have that financial muscle, or you cannot flex your few coins on that idea. And I think waiting for someone to do the legwork and for you is to come and improve on it and run away with the idea. And another thing I would want to caution here is not that the intention doesn't diminish here. You just mark timing. You just there waiting for the founders to, do all these things. I mean, those who started, executed this thing because they had money. You just wait for them to do all the legwork, build that proprietary technology, and learn how to do it. But then you realize that these people who wait for others to execute or come up with this kind of technologies and have not lost their intention. The intention is intact. It's time that actually might be running. So, while this law you can use it to advantage, it doesn't mean that you wait for, the intention to diminish. It's only time that is running, but the
Mhm.
intention still remains. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that, this law can actually work to your advantage if you are going to make a terrible, terrible mistake. For example, if you find yourself in a situation where you are furious with someone and you intended to take them head on and face them and unleash your wrath on them. I think if you took time, actually that intention is going to diminish.
Mhm.
That intention is going to diminish. And so I think what I'm trying to say is that we have to know actually where to use this law. Because if you think that, yes, if an idea strike or if you want to do something, then let's just go into it. We must also be able to have this ability to discern moments and be able to know actually when do I need to use this law to my advantage. In situations where you are going to make terrible mistakes, I think this law can come in handy to help you to delay those bad intentions. But if you have good intentions, I think it is just okay for you to go ahead and be able to test them and be able to execute. Along the way, you're going to learn a lot of things. It doesn't have to be perfect, but along the way, you're going to learn a lot. So the law of diminishing intent, I think, can actually come to save you in such moments, and makes you retreat to think about the consequences. Do you want to lose your relationship with your boss or even strain your relationship with your loved ones just because you don't want to succumb to the law of diminishing intent? I think that is not
Mhm.
what the law of diminishing intent was made. So if you wanted to, for example, if you wanted to send a hard hitting email to maybe your boss or whatever, actually this law can help you come to save you, not to
To
strain your,
diminish that
yeah,
intent.
yeah, diminish that intent, and avoid
Mhm.
making rash decisions which are not, decisions which do not have careful thought, and you're not given, a careful thought. I think that's for me how you can use this law to your advantage. I don't know what
Yeah,
you
I
think.
mean, to add on top of that, some of the other ways to use the law to your advantage is, we know that this law is mostly geared towards you procrastinating on activities. So
Mhm.
by recognizing that this law exists, and that you know that when I get the drive or the energy or the psych to do something, there is often something that might make me want to postpone it. By knowing that at the back of your mind, it can actually then motivate you to actually take immediate action towards those goals. So again, using it in reverse, you know that now I feel excited, I need to do this thing. And then you force yourself to do it, or you follow through with the thing, because you know that at the back of your mind, this law that if I don't do it now, I know that when I want to do it later, it will now be less exciting, more boring, it will probably be terrible. So you can use it as a motivation in itself to help you take immediate action towards these activities. And then you can also use it as a reminder to stay focused and committed and to avoid procrastination. So once you started an activity, remember this law does not die. It does not die it dies when you finish the activity. But along the way, there is often distractions that might come in. A WhatsApp message there, you want to check your Facebook, an email pops up there. So the law also acts as when you know it and once you've started to implement on the activity, it acts as a reminder to continue to stay committed and continue to stay focused to avoid that procrastination and to help you stay on track until that activity is done. So again, that is the other way you could twist this law and then use it to your
Your
advantage.
advantage. That makes total sense. That makes total sense. I think I want to move it notch and even ask about. Probably this is something that has come in when you are speaking. How can you avoid actually now to succumb to this law? How do you avoid succumbing to this law? I think that our viewers will be interested to know the practical ways of avoiding succumbing to this law of diminishing
Yeah,
intent.
so this is a question I love because it's a practical question, which I've sort of actually talked about in my latest book, Practical Skills for Entrepreneurial Success. So, how do you ensure that you avoid this law? So, we'll start with the first one, which is when you feel when you get the urge to do something, and it must not be the urge. When you set out to do something, you do it. End of story. When you set out to do something, you just begin and you just do it. And so the question then comes, why do we not do the things that we set out to do? One of the reasons why is because these things are often, we see them as very big goals and things that will are very impossible to do at one go. So again, going back to our conversation last week, once you have this activity that you want to do, break it down into small actionable steps. Take some 5 minutes, put it down on the paper and do the 120 rule, which is take this one big goal, break it down into up to 20 different small tasks and activities to help you do it, and then prioritize the top 5, which are the most important things, then you do it. That way the brain knows that this is a priority activity, I can be able to do it, it's a small task, and if I finish this, it moves me a step closer towards this goal, this vision, this dream that I'm building towards. So that is that is actually the second way. So one is take immediate action without delay. Second is take these goals, break them down into small manageable steps, and then create a plan of implementing the activities that you've put down. And then the other thing is make a commitment to yourself and make yourself accountable. And I found that to-do lists make you accountable naturally. Once you've set out to do this goal, you've broken it down into small steps, make yourself accountable. Write these things down and say, by today, I need to accomplish A, B, C, and D. When today ends and you haven't accomplished these things and you had the time, the skills, and the ability to have accomplished them, that is the point where you need to really also find ways of blaming yourself a bit because once you have to make yourself accountable. You have to give yourself some punishment for not
Mm,
doing those things, and even give yourself some reprieve, and correct yourself. Like, next time, now we will do it. So make yourself accountable. And then also, some other time, personal or self motivation is not enough, that you cannot be able to do it on your own. And so you need other people to act as accountability partners to help you move
mm,
forward with the goals and activities that you have set out to do. And so, as part of this law, and as part of how we actually overcome this law, is you could also have friend, a community, an accountability partner to ensure that they keep you on track. Sometimes you cannot keep yourself on track, and it requires someone to keep you on track.
mm,
That we
mm.
could be able to also use that to help us, be able to really avoid this law of diminishing intent.
Mhm. Yeah, that's beautiful, and I think explanation for, I mean, how to avoid succumbing to the law of diminishing intent. In fact, it was one of the questions that were asked by, attendees, or those who register to attend. And I think that has given us an idea of how you can actually avoid succumbing to the law of diminishing intent. Probably what I would want to add there, I think I've mentioned it, but I'm going to mention it again for emphasis sake. Um, I mean, it's in the book, The Obstacle is the Way. I don't know. I mean, those who have read it would actually, they remember, they can recall this line that, never leave a scene of clarity without, taking action. But the funny thing is, people think that when you are told to take action at the point of clarity, they think you unleash all your might and complete it at one go. It's not about
Hmm.
completing at one go. It's about doing, what it takes to just start on it. For example, if you wanted to do research, and research, you know what it involves, conceptualize, all
Hmm.
that. You actually start with getting a title. What are you going to do? What do you want to do? Probably you had a title ready, but you can actually now start doing, other sections, like just do the introduction or do the statement of the problem. So I think it is understanding that when you are advised or encouraged not to leave a point of or a moment of inspiration without taking action, it doesn't mean do it at one go, because that is not also possible. The thing is, do whatever, will make you just start on that idea, and be able to start executing. Because you know what is difficult? It's starting is what is actually difficult. And when you have started working on an idea, and I think we all have those moments when we like, will I really begin working on this task? But when you start, you actually find yourself going. And so
Hmm.
I think for us to avoid succumbing to the law of diminishing intent, we must also understand that the only difficult part is to start. And 10 minutes into starting that, whatever you're doing, you'll find yourself like you are into it and you don't want to stop. And this thing happens. So let
Hmm.
us just, and I think one of the things that we must master is the art of getting started, which we are going to talk about in our next webinar. How the art of getting started. How do you actually get started? That idea that seems so, big, or that idea that you can't start working on. You need to actually just start working on it. Just identify simple things you can do, and that one will motivate you to actually continue doing it.
Hmm.
For those who also have read Awaken the Giant Within. For Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins mentioned that, actually Tony Robbins is Jim Rohn's protege, and he talks about, for him, he talks about never leave a moment of inspiration without taking action. And so you find that it's about what little thing, that a little big thing you can do now, that is going to get you started. And it doesn't have to be something big, just do something. think that's
Mm-hmm.
can also avoid succumbing
Yeah.
to. Mm.
Good, good. So, how can businesses and organizations take advantage of this law, to boost their productivity and performance, seeing that both of us are running businesses, enterprises, companies, but also a lot of the people who will be listening to this will probably
Mm.
be doing the same. So, how can they be able to take advantage of this law to ensure that they are able to boost their performance, productivity in the workplace?
Yeah, I think that is a very beautiful, I mean, question. I think when you talk about business, I would also want to include even startups there, and I think
Mhm.
one of the things that I mean founders or even owners of business or business owners must actually avoid is succumbing to this law, because one, you might say that actually today I want to make 10 calls, and say, okay, I mean, instead of making those calls today, let me make those calls tomorrow. I mean, for example, if you are in a maybe you are doing or you're providing services around communication and all that, or your work is to actually make calls, and the more number of people you can reach in a day, the more sales you can actually make. So I think this law of diminishing intent should actually encourage you to, I mean, do that thing which you are, I mean, postponing, because that is actually what is going to ensure that at the end of the day you achieve your targets, and that because it's those targets that I mean you're gonna be evaluated against. I mean the targets that were set, and that will be your performance evaluation. So I think for those who are running business should understand that their core business or their core activities I mean revolve around, I mean, doing the work that they actually are supposed to do, and doing that work is actually what is going to make them, I mean, hit those sales target they want to hit, or reach the X number of clients they want to reach. If you postpone it today, I mean, chances are that the customer you wanted to reach today, tomorrow they might actually be, I mean, another company has already bagged them. And so you lose that opportunity. You lose that
Mhm.
moment of signing a new client because you said, I'm going to do it tomorrow. You may find that actually today they were making plans to purchase a product which you actually want to reach out to them to buy. Tomorrow they already got they already have I mean, a potential seller, and they're going to buy from that person, and that means you're losing considerable number of sales. So I mean, my advice or what I would just say about this is that I mean, people or businesses or business owners should actually understand that for them it is a race against time. The more they wait and diminish the intention, the more they are going to lose a great deal of money or a great deal of revenue, and they might not actually
Mhm.
hit their revenue targets. I think
Yeah.
that's what I mentioned about this.
Yeah, I mean, well put. And I think the summary of that is really creating a culture of immediate action and accountability, especially for businesses. If your company culture is, for us, we act immediately and we are accountable to our actions, then we beat out this law, because this law is more towards not acting immediately. So, as a company, as a business, as an enterprise, part of the company
Mhm,
or organizational culture should be the culture of immediate action and accountability. That in this business, we do things once we've set out to do things, we do them immediately, and we are
mhm,
accountable for the things that we do. And I think when you do that as a business, as an enterprise, and then you leverage on setting clear goals, you have clear deadlines, and then you also have individuals, holding them accountable to their actions, you can really overcome this law of diminishing intent, and you can really push the organization
mhm,
forward quickly, because a lot of people, they don't want to be accountable. They don't want to take action. They want someone else to do it. They want someone else to sign the book. They want someone else to, they want to wait for someone else to take up that accountability bit. And so for businesses, organizations, enterprises as a whole, my big concern and primary goal or even strategy towards eliminating this law is setting a culture of immediate action and accountability.
I think that's a beautiful addition on that side.
So I see that we have just around 10 minutes or less to go. And so the question that's sort of asked as a summary is, what would you say are some of the key takeaways that you sort of put out there for people listening in to really give them the upper hand in terms of overcoming this law of diminishing intent, but also understanding how it works?
Thank you. Before I answer, I want to shout out to Isaac Kipkorir, who is watching and with friends. Thank you for joining this wonderful discussion. I think you are enjoying the discussions that are emanating from here. Yeah, in finishing, I think what I want to put out clearly, and my parting shot would be, don't put off until tomorrow what you can actually do today, and decide to do something and then follow through.
All right, looks like we might have lost you there for a minute, but yes, don't put out what you can do today, tomorrow. Just decide and just do it. And I think Nike's anthem or momentum really puts this into perspective, and they say that you just have to do it. Just do it. When the idea comes, just do it. When the action comes, just do it. When you're supposed to do the activity, just do it. When you feel like you're tired, just do it. When you see distractions, just do it. And I think that is the riding message when you're talking about the law of diminishing intent, is to look at how can we just continue to do it when we are facing these distractions, when you are facing these obstacles. And Ryan, who writes the book Obstacle is a Way, chose a very good title for it as well, because obstacle really is a way. The way to get to the end of the task that you set out for yourself is to go through the obstacles, to go through them, and then to go above them. And so I think even for those who are listening at the moment, is that one of the biggest ways to actually overcome the law of diminishing intent is to break down those goals into smaller, manageable tasks. This will help you to avoid feeling overwhelmed and give you some sense of progress as you complete each task. Additionally, it can be very helpful to create a visual representation of your goals, such as a vision board or a goal chart, to keep your goals on top of your mind and to remind you, to give you a constant reminder that these are activities that you need to do and these are activities that get you started. And then surrounding yourself, with supportive people and staff is another way of really getting you accountable. And even that is why coaches and mentors become helpful, because they make you accountable and they keep you on track. And then finally is really celebrating your success along the way. So you don't have to wait for the big goal to be hit. You celebrate the successes along the way to ensure that you get, the brain to release the dopamine and the feel-good hormones to get you inspired and excited and ready physiologically for the next activity that you're supposed to take. This gives you the momentum, this gives you the positive attitude towards achieving your goals. So, Oduor, before you just went, I was just giving my parting shot on this law, and one of the things that I mentioned is really following Nike's mantra, which is just do it. Yeah. So I see that you've we've lost you up again. So I'll wait for you to come back in, perhaps to give in your closing remarks on this call before we could really move into exciting news for what is the next topic, and Oduor might have already alluded to it, which will be a very exciting topic. So that is really when it comes to the law of diminishing intent, in summary, is this law is the law that states that whatever you don't use now, whatever energy, motivation, activity you don't use now, you lose it. So that is one. And then secondly, you can be able to the law affects your goals. It makes you lose focus and motivation, and it makes you less prepared to do the tasks and activities. And then thirdly, as we've said, you can overcome this law by taking action immediately without delay, having an accountability partner, breaking big goals into small manageable steps, and celebrating your success. And then you can take advantage of this law, as we talked about as well, by recognizing that obstacles will be there and using this law as a motivation to keep you going. And then finally, we talked about how organizations and businesses can take advantage of the law of diminishing intent. And we say that they can be able to really take advantage of this law by encouraging a culture of immediate action and accountability. And by setting those clear goals and deadlines and encouraging collaboration and communication and holding individuals accountable at the workplace, organizations can really overcome the law of diminishing intent. And then finally, I talked about what are some of the psychology behind the law, but also talked about how you can overcome the law of diminishing intent at a personal level in order to achieve your goals, which was my previous to last submission. And so that is the summary really of the law of diminishing intent. Next, we are going to talk about the art of getting started. The art of getting started. That's one of my favorite formulas. One of the kind of activities that I really enjoy to talk about and get people excited on. And I also mention it in my book, Practical Skills for Entrepreneurial Success, which is the law or the art of getting started is one of the initial chapters to this book. So be ready. We will certainly communicate certainly within the next 2 weeks about when we will be hosting the art of getting started webinar and presentation, and then we'll move the needle forward from there on. And so how do you continue to keep in touch and to keep in progress with our work at Legacy Leadership Africa? One is simply visit our website at www.legacyleadershipafrica. Go check out what we are doing. Go check out the activities that we have, the courses that we have produced, the books that we have written, and the networks that we have already created that you could really take advantage of. And then also look at how you can be able to engage with us through engaging on various social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube now, on Twitter, and also on podcast. We are available on various podcast platforms as well. Finally, as we clock into the hour, you can also visit my personal website to find out more about the activities that I do, the books that I've written, the courses that I offer at www.ogwenostephen.com. And with that, thank you very much and see you on the next one.
Alright, thanks for listening, and that's a wrap for this episode. For more exciting episodes like this, don't forget to follow our podcast, the Afropreneur Podcast, on all streaming sites, and visit our website at www.ogwenostephen.com. See you on the next one.